comes off the bench to be a hero, a superhero. Breakthrough. It's taken a while, but it's been worth the wait for Cardiff City.
Hey guys, I'm Si. Welcome to A.C.E Podcast Nation, the home of the Andy Campbell Football Show. This is episode number 116. The show is available live on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. A.C.E Podcast Nation, of course, home to many other great shows and series featuring top guests, expert analysts and more. So please give us a follow on social media and subscribe to that YouTube channel. Click the bell for notifications so you get a little text every time we upload or we go live. Got loads of good shows and good guests and all sorts of things coming up. And of course you can get the audio versions of the usual podcast and radio platforms. And if you want to keep it just football, then follow at A.C.E Footy Show on social media, and that'll keep it purely football and the beautiful game. And just as we wait for a couple of those platforms to fill up, we've got a couple of thank yous to make. Of course, big thank you to Black Diamond Sport for all their support around the show. Black Diamond Sport is a global sports agency which represents sports stars from around the world. For more information, you can visit their social media pages and, of course, their website. The links to which are all in the description below and the closing credits at the end of the show. But today's sponsor, as usual, I'm very happy to say, is Bespoke Financial. And Darren Ralston of Bespoke Financial, of course, is giving away a free will at the moment worth £140 with any new policy which is taken out. So please check him out, give him a call, don't miss out on what is an incredible offer. He's looked after Andy, as we know, for many years with various policies. They are truly top of their field. They provide award-winning service, and we are very proud to partner with such a top-class brand. And we will have a little ad from them a bit later on in the show. But with no further ado, first of all is the goal collector, the co-host with the most, the fox in the box, the QPR dream killer, the speed demon, the goal machine, so many different nicknames, but the best one being David Jones, his favourite son. It is ex-Cardiff City and Middlesbrough striker, Mr. Andy Campbell. Welcome, my friend.
Good evening, mate. Yeah, another Monday, another superb guest. Really excited for this. This is finally we've got somebody who really deserves this Cardiff City tag of legend, because and I'll explain this a little bit. I'm going to go into it before we explain it our guest, because people are on about 2003 season, which got Cardiff City to where they are now. It goes far way back than that. You know what I mean? There's a reason why Cardiff City are where they are right this minute and right where they are today and in the Premier League for previous seasons. You know what I mean? It's because of generations gone by, and I think too many people have gone on about the 2003 season. You know, yes, it was an important season. Of course, it was important games, important heritage, players, etc. But it goes further back than that. You know what I mean? I talk about my club at Middlesbrough. You know what I mean? And you can go back to years and years and years gone by. So, yeah, I'm really, really excited to dig deep, because some of the feedback we've had over social media in the last 24 hours has been outstanding, and some of the comments has been amazing. Really excited for it.
Yeah, people are really excited about it. And let's bring the guest in straight away. I'm very excited to welcome tonight's guest. He's played for Kettering Town, Barry Town, Merthyr Tydfil, and of course is a legend, as mentioned, at the mighty Cardiff City. It is none other than Mr. Cohen Griffith. Welcome, Cohen. How are you, mate?
I'm all right, thanks, Si. Thanks, Andy, for having me on your show as well.
Yeah, you know, I'm really excited, mate. It's a privilege to have you on. It's like I said, it's great to have people who we've both had an opportunity to grow up watching. You know, that Ninian Park, Ayresome Park, when I grew up watching Middlesbrough and all the old stadiums and things, that it just loses that kind of atmosphere for me, the enjoyment. You know, you watch games, I know it's different at the minute, you watch games on TV with zero atmosphere, but sometimes in stadiums they're not as good as they used to be, and obviously we'll go into obviously the famous Ninian Park later on, but it's brilliant to have that insight of someone who's been there and wore the T-shirt on quite a number of games, by the way, because you've had an unbelievable career.
Yeah, what we need to do is think how many good games. It's not how many you played, how many times you played.
Listen, I've got two hands, so I don't need that many for mine. I could probably use one hand, so it doesn't. But sometimes it doesn't matter. It's about position-wise. It was about goals or important goals. I know you need one finger for that sometimes. It's sometimes being in the right place at the right time. But people don't forget though, Colin. That's one thing that I'll say about Cardiff City fans. You know what I mean? That everyone told me before they did sign how passionate they were and how crazy they were. And I think crazy is a word which is pandied about quite negatively. But when I mean crazy, I mean that I left the club 16 years ago, and I'm probably more famous now than I was when I played for Cardiff City, which is just ridiculous. You know, I'm more well thought of now than I was back then, and that's credit to people. It's not credit to me because, yes, I give things back and I give my time and stuff, but I only give that back because of how good the people are and were since day one, really.
Yeah, you're right. You know, the fans are. You don't realise how much a club means to the fans. And then, you know, I'd heard about Cardiff fans and all this sort of stuff. And then I decided when I was moving down into the area to not try to be right in the middle, just in case I was having a bad time. You know, you always try and look at the worst case scenario. And I thought, I'm not going to be near the ground. I'm going to be well away from it, just in case I'm having a bad time. I don't want any bricks going through my windows and stuff like that. So I moved right into the valleys, right into the middle of all of the Cardiff fans. And, you know, fortunately, you know, I had a decent time there. But the fans were, you know, really, really passionate. And, you know, people used to tell me, you know, when they're doing well, there won't be any games on a Saturday. Everything will stop, so they go down to the football. And, you know, I couldn't see that. And then it wasn't until we started to do pretty well that, yeah, everything stopped. It was unbelievable.
Which is great, Sally, isn't it? You know what I mean? Because I think, and we spoke about this, haven't we? Reputation is it's not fair. You know what I mean? People give it a negative reputation. You know what I mean? And some people like it because some people thrive on it. But you know what I mean? I've met some lovely people from Cardiff who love going to watch football, who've not got a bad reputation, like Si, like some other really good friends of mine. And you know what? It doesn't need that negativity sometimes. It's all about being passionate. It's all about enjoying, and everyone to their own. Sometimes, you know, it's just fantastic. Some great comments, by the way, and some new people coming in the show, which is great. So fantastic.
Yeah, always good, mate. Always good. I'm going to apologise up front because I don't think I got any chance of keeping on top of all these comments today, but I will do my best. So, Cohen, what we're going to do to start us off, mate, is we're going to have what we call the Magnificent Seven, which is just 7 quick-fire questions, so people can get a feel for your tastes and just learn a little bit about you and stuff. Ease us in nicely to the show. So let's go with that now. Okay, Cohen Griffith, the Magnificent Seven. Always nice and easy to start. Messi or Ronaldo?
Messi for me.
Favourite TV show?
Gotta be Match of the Day, I think.
I like that. Do you know what?
Nice.
Do you know
That's
what?
the first time
We've never had
that.
it. Never had it. Never had
Really?
it. No.
It's
Never had it.
incredible,
We've had
isn't
some. We've had a variation, by the way. Some good, some not so good. I like that one. I've not thought about that one.
It's mad, isn't it? The football show, and no one's ever said Match of the Day.
I'm normally asleep. I have to watch it in the morning.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout. Yeah.
Next one is Barry or Cardiff?
Cardiff, I think.
The angriest player you ever played with an example, if possible.
Angriest player? I don't know. Played with Lee Barnard, maybe. Lee Barnard. He was. I think he was angry because it needed us to be angry. Because he came from Swindon when he signed for us, and Mark Jones, who also came from Swindon, said the difference between Lee at Swindon and Lee at Cardiff was just completely different. And so I spoke to Lee about it, and he said that's what the dressing room needed. So he became what we needed.
Excellent.
It's not a bad thing, though,
like
it's not a bad thing, though, is it? You know what I mean? Because people can be so many different things that they want to be. You know what I mean? Going over that white line, so to speak, that you can be as angry as you want in moderation. You know what I mean? Not let your team down and yourself down, but you can be so different on the pitch and off the pitch. It's scary, and some people are the chalk and cheese, and I really like that. I think it makes football a little bit like a pantomime, and I think it makes it interesting for people and supporters to not really know the proper you.
Mm-hmm.
Spot on, mate. And then next up, the most upset or angry that you've ever been on a football pitch.
Most upset, it's got to be when we got relegated, when we lost at Bury. I think that was probably 1990, my first season. So, because I thought we were going to get out of it, not necessarily on that day, even though we had chances. But I always remember just coming up to Christmas, we were just coming out of it, and then the game was called off. We were on a bit of a run. The game was called off. Everybody else played, and it shouldn't have been called off either. Everybody else played, and then we were back in it, and we never ever got out. So, most upset, definitely Barry. Sorry.
I don't think, though, sometimes, Osai, that the fans don't probably think that players care that much. You know what I mean? Sometimes I think because they go home and people don't see how much it hurts. You know what I mean? In my time at Cardiff, you know what I mean? Obviously, we lost out in the playoff semi-final, which was a big thing. I've been relegated in my life. I've missed out on promotion. I've been beaten in cup finals. It's listen, and it's individual. I'm not saying everyone's got to go home and cry and everyone's got to go home and spend weeks and weeks and weeks and not talk to anybody. But you know what I mean? You've got to care, and you've got to show you care somehow. And it's how you can relate that to supporters. You know what I mean? I'm not saying going on social media now, which obviously wasn't around when I played and Cohen played and things, and say I'm gutted for the fans, because I don't want to read that as a supporter. You know what I mean? I want someone to show me that they care, and I mean the next game. If that's 6 weeks down the line, the next season, then show me. But show me in the right way. Don't just show me by putting something on social media and stuff. It's not for me, that.
They can see you care in the way that you play.
Yeah.
You know, 100%. And that's what I think a lot of fans, when they see the players as they see it as not trying, then that's where a lot of the criticism might come in. And the players probably are trying. It's just that they try in a different way. For me, you know, I used to run all over the place because that's probably what I was good at. And the fans could see that you're trying. You know, you might not be playing your best, but you're giving it your best shot, and that's all that anybody wants, really.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, Andy, I think I told you this story before, but I can't remember if it was on a podcast, so I'll tell you now again very quickly. Willie Boland told me that when he was at Cardiff, he struggled in his first season, and particularly if he'd had a bad game, he felt like he couldn't go out in the night, like for a meal with his partner or whatever, or go meet some friends, because he felt like people would look at it, you know, and sort of say, well, he's not doing it on the pitch, but he's all right to go out. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's another way of people caring, but people don't see that, do they? They don't know that, just, you know, some players are staying in because it's affected them that much.
But it happens the other way as well, you know, that I remember, and I'm going back to my time at Cardiff, that it was 2004, my daughter had just been born. She was born on the Saturday, and it was the following Saturday, so we played Leeds United at home. Massive game. I was very fortunate to miss a penalty. You know what I mean? Couldn't have been any worse timing. And all the lads had secretly arranged a meal, which we all went out. And I just missed a penalty. Didn't really want to go out, show my face. But you put yourself in that environment, and people aren't quite nice to you because you think you're out there enjoying yourself. It was my worst night out I've ever had in my life, because I didn't want to be there, but I only went out there because people wanted me there. You know what I mean? I made a sharp exit straight after it. And it was just uncomfortable, but. Like you're both saying, you know what I mean? It's not nice, you know what I mean? I've done it at Middlesbrough. I think we got beat 7-1 by Arsenal once, and I planned a big night out with a few friends and just said, listen, I'm not going anywhere. You know, I'm a local lad. I'm sitting in the house. If you want to come round, we'll watch TV, we'll have a drink. But I'm not. There's no way in the world I'm going out and put myself in that situation. It's not happening.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And the final question, Cohen, of the Magnificent Seven, with the not so quick fire questions today, but that's all right. I like it. Is, in your opinion, and it doesn't have to be football related, who is the greatest man to ever come from Georgetown?
God, I don't even know how many people come from Georgetown. I don't.
It's a difficult one, that, isn't it?
Well, you gotta think that I came away from Georgetown when I was 1.5. So
God, do you remember that?
I don't really know.
Shall I list some people for you?
To tell the truth, obviously I can't say myself. In fact, I'm probably the only one I know who's come from Georgetown.
You can name yourself. We've never had that one either.
I can't put myself in there, no.
So I can list. I can list some people from Georgetown. You've got female footballer Charmaine Hooper. You've got cricketer Carl Hooper. You've got a few cricketers: Leon Johnson, Charles Pollard. You've got a singer called Rushton Kelly, Roger Harper, boxer Troy. A cricketer, American footballer Robert Gathers. Who else we got? Trying to find one which everyone would know, but there you go. Letitia Wright, who is an actress from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. She's in the Black Panther movies.
Oh, is she?
Yes.
Okay,
so
well,
we'll go. You could go with her, I guess.
Recent, so I would say her, but otherwise I would have gone for one of the cricketers, like perhaps Pollard maybe.
Yes, Roger Harper and some people like that. Do you like cricket? Cohen?
I don't mind it, but I'm absolutely shocking at it. You know, when we used to play at school and stuff like that, and they would say, "Well, what do you do?" My answer would be field. I'm a fielder because I'm rubbish at batting and no good at bowling. I used to like going behind wicket, doing the wicket keeping because you're always in the game.
Yes.
But no, I wasn't particularly good at it.
Okay, cool. So I'm just going to, and before we go to the Tell Me Why, I'm going to go to a couple of comments. We've also got a super chat, which I'm not particularly happy about, but it's a super chat, so I have to read it and I have to go into it, but we'll do that in a minute. But there's a few people saying about you were their tutor in college. James Costley says he watched you playing for Taftswell when he was younger, but he's not old enough to have watched you play for Cardiff. Gavin Randall, of course, I think you know personally. He's said a couple of things.
Gav's super excited, by the way, Cole. Super excited.
He's been very excited.
He's like a kid in a sweet shop.
A few ex students. I'm trying to find a particular one. Jack Osborne. He says Cohen is my ex-college tutor. Mainly did work in the gym when I was in level 1.
Yeah, that's right. Jack's all right. He's a good lad, Jack.
And, which is nice, Cohen. It's lovely though, isn't it? You know what I mean? Because you get people who you don't see anymore, and you probably don't keep in contact with. You know what I mean? I've got ex-students students come and go, and you have good times, and you have good memories, but you don't ever get to see them again, and they grow up to be adults. You know what I mean? We don't all act like adults. You know what I mean? We're all quite immature. Well, I am anyway. But and it's just sometimes you wish that you were able to probably keep in touch with some people because you knew they were going to grow up to be some really nice human beings.
Yeah, well, you know, you're coming across these kids at 16. They're not really 16, 17, whatever it is. They've not really decided what they want to do or how they're going to go about it, and immature. A lot of them, because perhaps not did so well in their exams or whatever their circumstances might be, and then you might see them or come in contact with them a few years later, and they've got nice responsible jobs and they've got the families, and some of the students that I've started were like 32, 33 now, and I'm thinking, oh, God, it goes to show how long you've been doing that job for. And it's nice to see them that they've started their family and you're still keeping in contact. So, it is quite rewarding.
I was just about to say that then, Cohen. Does that make you proud then that you started them on that journey? You know what I mean? That you had a huge impact on them, either making changes to their life or having a positive impact on them?
Yeah, well, I think having I wouldn't say I was a huge impact on their life or whatever, but I'd like to think that I would have a small part to play in it, and even if it's just in terms of creating habits that will stand you in good stead.
Totally agree.
One of the things I say for the lessons is always about punctuality. Be there on time. I mean, you know what it's like at football. If they say a time, you've got to be there by that time. Okay, so if you can get that into your psyche from 16, then if you're going to go and work in an office or whatever you do, if you're going to go and catch a train or a plane or whatever it is, you've got it in there. I will be on time. and it'll stand you in good stead.
I totally agree. There's certain traits, isn't there, which are important in all of us, but to pass it on to young people is great. Yeah.
So Rob Boyle, who's a regular viewer, he takes a lot of fun mocking on during the Kevin McNaughton show, and he said one of his biggest regrets is when he's not realising what a player you were for Cardiff when he was at college. So it's again another one, someone who you have tutored. We had a super.
Remember Rob? Nice to see him with his family as well now and all that sort of stuff. So, like I said, it's just seeing people grow up and contributing.
That's it. I like it. The Fisherman says, "Hi Cohen, thanks for the memories. Loved watching you play. Some great days." And right, there's a couple of questions. So Gaz sent a super chat. He said, "What's the story with Si, his missus, and Willie Boland?" I will talk about that at the end of the show because I feel like I've said it before, but seeing as this is a super chat, I feel like
I'll stop you there. The last time you said you were going to say it at the end of the show, you forgot.
Did I? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll let Gaz off. And he sent a super chat, so I will 100%. I will remember right at the end of the show, though, because I want to focus on Cohen for the minute. And there was just two other things I wanted to do before we move on. Your dad sent a question, which I want to get to in just a second. But I wanted to ask Cohen about this, because I remember it, and I know because I've seen a few people talking about it in the chat. Matthew Angel said, anyone else remember cutting out the vouchers at the back of the South Wales Echo? Used to love doing that, and then just collecting the vouchers to get I think it was for a quid or something like that, to get in for a quid for kids, or quids for kids for a quid, I think it was. And Rick Wright, I believe. But yeah, that was that rolls back the years for me, that does. Okay, so Andy's dad says, question for both Andy and Cohen: have either of you ever been subbed on and off like Hudson-Odoi was at the weekend?
Who first?
Cohen, you go first. Cohen, go first.
No, I've never been subbed on or off. So, I think it'd be really hard to take mentally if that happened to me. But no, it's never happened to me.
Here's a follow-up question then, and for you as well, when you answer this. Do you think it's harder for a younger player to take it, or like a 32-year-old? And has it ever happened to you, obviously, as well?
That's not happened to me, but one thing which I can probably say is similar to happened to me. So I was playing for Middlesbrough at the time, and I started a game, and the goalkeeper got sent off after something like 6 minutes. So obviously the manager brought a new goalkeeper on. He had to bring somebody off. He brought me off, which was fine. You know, I fully understood why he did it. I got it. I took it on the chin, so to speak. But then the following Saturday, the sub goalkeeper who was starting got sent off after 5 minutes. So a new goalkeeper warmed up again, got ready to come on. Who came off? I came off again. So the second time I didn't get it. I understood why I came off, because he went the same formation, the same team, and I was the only young player on the pitch. But it probably took me 2 or 3 weeks after that to get over it. You know what I mean? And I can fully understand. So then to relate that to your question, I think it'd probably be easier for an older player to understand the reasoning behind it, and probably to go down the route of it's time wasting, it's fresh legs, or you look tired or something. Because how could you explain to Hudson-Odoi, A, he doesn't look tired because he's a young kid. You know what I mean? He's probably the freshest player they've got. Tactically, it's happened a few times now, and how would I'd be embarrassed. I think I would be really embarrassed. I'd feel as though that I wasn't good enough, and you know what I mean. I just don't think it should ever happen, or ever be able to happen, because it could really, really harm a player's confidence, and I think it's upsetting. It's embarrassing for them, and I don't like it, because I could easily put myself in that position, and I'd hate people who laugh at me and make fun of that, because it wouldn't be very nice.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, mate, isn't it? Like Mourinho's done it a couple of times.
A younger player than an older player.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, 100%. But then is it easier taking off a player who's been on the pitch for 80 minutes, for example? Yes. So I don't know why he didn't do that. It's, you know what I mean? No. Listen, even if he was having the worst game, I've seen it happen to the Arsenal player, the fullback. Was it? It wasn't Touré, was it? Was it Touré? It was an Arsenal fullback anyway. And he came on and he got brought off, and he stormed down the tunnel and took his shirt off, and that was the end of him. And I could probably see Hudson-Odoi not be happy with it and potentially moving on because of this reason, because he had a chance to move to Bayern Munich not so long ago.
Yeah,
I'm guessing they wouldn't have done it to him. So you know, what I mean, don't do it. Don't do it to a lad who's got potential, and this kid's got potential, by the way. So
yeah, 100%. Right. So just last thing we'll do before we go to Tell Me Why, and I want to get this question in. Craig Sullivan says, Cohen, he remembers your perfect Cardiff City debut. Do you remember much about it?
Yeah, well, your debut is always going to be one of the things that you remember. Obviously, it was Huddersfield away, and you know, Cardiff, I think, were probably down the bottom of the table, or very close to the bottom anyway at the time. And I'll have to say this, which a lot of people might not know about this, is that I hadn't met any of the players. I just went from my house to met the coach, I think it was, and then into the ground. And when they named the team, Steve Lynex, who had been playing, he'd already put the jersey on. And then Len Ashurst came down and named the team, and Steve was out, and he'd already put his shirt on. And then, obviously, that's the first lesson that I learned: never put a shirt on before you get the team's name. But then, also, to be fair to Steve Lynex, who was a Leicester player as well, so he's one of my heroes, you know, from Leicester as well. He came over to me, gave me the shirt, and said, "Listen, you know, all the best on your debut." To be fair to him, that was really, really good, because it would have been really awkward. But yeah, so that was well played for him. But then obviously ended up playing and scored a volley, which I never managed to repeat in the 100 odd plus games that I've played since. So yeah, scored a volley and then got a penalty, and we ended up winning the game 3-2. So yeah, it was quite a good debut.
Sounds
excellent.
Like the perfect debut, doesn't it?
Okay, sorry,
Si,
just to follow on from there, Cohen. Then did that then help with getting the supporters to relate to you and the relationship that you got? You know what I mean? Because you hit the ground running. You know what I mean? I think I'm loved by the supporters because of the start that I had for Cardiff City. I scored in my debut. I was lucky enough to score, I think, a hat-trick on my third game, a 2 in my second game, and I probably didn't score again for probably another 20 games after I signed permanently. But it's just one of those things, isn't it? It's just one of those things that nobody knows the answers to, nobody knows why, but it happens, and it happens in football, and it's just... But I think fans know that cream always rises, so to speak, so you always get that opportunity again to perform. Yeah,
I think that if you're a forward, I think the pressure and the expectation is on you to score.
Yeah.
So if you can do that early, then it takes a lot of that pressure off. You know, just imagine if you've been signed as a centre forward and it takes you 10, 12, 15 games to get a goal. It's just pressure mounting and all the time. So just to score early on takes a lot of pressure off, and you can just sort of concentrate on playing then.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, we had a friend of the show, Reece Weston. I remember we trained my first training session. You know what I mean? 'Cause I did the same thing, because my debut was supposed to be at Huddersfield. I hadn't met the team as well, but the game got called off. So obviously I went back to Middlesbrough, got my bags, and then joined a couple of days later. And the players had a day off on the day that I signed. And Reece Weston was training with the reserves that day. I think he got injured, so he was getting a bit of fitness up. And I trained, and inside we were doing a shooting drill, and I just couldn't hit the target for the life of me. I was having a really bad day. The travelling off, whatever it was. I'm not making excuses, but it was my legs had gone, my head had gone, and I was in a really bad mood. And all I got in my ear all training session was Reece Weston saying, "Is that check bounced yet? Is that pen dried on the?" I mean, I'm just thinking, just leave me alone. Just let me concentrate on my football. I've just signed, and all the other lads are laughing, and it was just, listen, it was just banter in the change room, which I totally get. But I'm going from being a young kid in the dressing room, which everyone feels a little bit sorry for the young boys, and you get everyone putting their arm around you, make sure you're all right, and then all of a sudden you're a price tag, you're a main player, and you've just got to hit that ground running and be with the banter like everybody else. And I think I grew up very quickly that week. Very quickly.
Got some cracking questions which we'll go to in a minute, but for now we're going to go to Tell Me Why. Okay, so in this segment, I ask you both 2 questions for this week, and you have 60 seconds to talk about the question, answer the question, whatever you like. So, first of all, who would like to go first?
I'll let Cohen decide. I'm happy to do either.
Cohen, do you want to go first or second?
You may go first.
Andy first. Okay. Yeah. So the first question is Jose Mourinho's time at Spurs coming to an end, or can he turn it around? And your time starts now.
I think he's obviously got the players to turn it around, but are they playing for him week in, week out? And I don't see that. We spoke last week about Gareth Bale and people being able to get the best out of Gareth Bale. Harry Kane's not fit. He is having a bit of a bad time with injury, but I do believe, and I've just said earlier on, that cream always rises. He's a good manager. He's a winning manager. He's got a winning mentality. He's a born winner. They're still in Europe, I believe. I think they won in midweek with Gareth Bale scoring along with the other star players. So I believe he will turn it round if he's given time. But like we all know, in the Premier League and in English football, it's a results business, and I think he will be able to turn it round. Yes. How long is that?
15 seconds to go, mate. But I'll let you off because I'm a nice guy.
That was hard, that.
It's a hard one. I thought that was hard. The second one's easy, mate. So you're all right. And Cohen, same question to you. Is Jose Mourinho's time at Spurs coming to an end, or can he turn it around? And your 60 seconds starts now.
Can he turn it around? I think he can turn it around. As Andy said, he's a good manager with proven record. Obviously, things aren't right at the moment. There's something that's going on there, maybe behind the scenes or whatever it is. It's not right. He started to blame the players, which isn't ideal. Maybe he thinks they should be accountable. But a lot of the times, the managers would then sort of almost like take it on themselves. It's my fault. I'm doing things wrong. If you look at Man City with Pep Guardiola, when Man City weren't doing well, he never blamed the players. He said, it's me. I picked the wrong side. I've done this. And Mourinho's going the other way. So, I think he even said that there's nothing that I can do as the coach. And he insinuated it was something to do with maybe their mentality. Maybe they haven't got that desire to do it for him. So I think he can turn it around because, as you say, they've got good players. But if
and that's your time up there,
really
there, Cohen.
We're struggling.
I like
Very good, mate. That was.
I like that. I like that. I hadn't heard some of those comments, and that's quite alarming for me. That's
yes.
You know what I mean? Because when you start blaming players and blaming other people, that's coming to an end because chairman and other people start hearing those noises. And for me, there's no way of turning it around. You know what I mean? A comment said there about Pep. You know what I mean? Pep's always blaming himself. He's always looking at ways to get himself better, and looking how he's getting the rewards now because of just of how good he is and how good of a manager is. You look at John Stones. I'll use him as a prime example. John couldn't get in the team for a year. He looks Rolls Royce again now. He looks the best Premier League defender in the world on current form.
Yeah. Well, you look at Mourinho's time at United, mate. Like, he was always having thinly veiled sort of pokes at Luke Shaw and his fitness or this or that and the other. And it was when he fully turned on him in public that the players almost turned on him, and that was, the writing was on the wall. When you start singling out players or you blame the players and almost make out like, there's nothing more that I can do, I'm doing everything that I can do, I feel like there's only one way that's going to go. And
listen, there's a time and a place for that. That happens in the changing room all the time. As long as it stays there, I've got no issue with it whatsoever. You know what I mean? If a manager comes in and says, listen to the boys, there's nothing more I can do. It's all down to you. As a player, I'm sat there thinking, I'll prove him wrong. I will prove him wrong on Saturday or Wednesday or Thursday, whenever it is nowadays. You know what I mean? And then as a manager, it's reverse psychology. But if once you go in the press and do it, if reverse psychology doesn't work when it's everywhere, then the whole world's gone over it. It's not reverse then.
Look at what he's done to Dele Alli, mate. I've used that example a few times.
Yeah, we were talking about that last week.
But it's a weird one. I think I've got to say I apologise to Spurs fans because I really cursed them. I said about when they were doing well, I said I could see Mourinho taking him on because of the side they've got. I said I wouldn't be surprised if he finished in the top 2. And ever since I said that, they've just fallen to pieces. So I apologise profusely to them.
Saying that though, Si, on that point, we've got a lot of West Ham followers. You've got to give them credit, by the way. They've had an unbelievable season. Mate. David Moyes, listen, he's outdoing his Everton form. I thought that was never going to be beaten. He's absolutely amazing, and the signings what he's made from the Championship alone, Ben Rama, the lad from Hull, Jared Bowen. He deserves huge credit. He's doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, he is.
100%, mate. I'd be really interested to hear, because I know Gaz, who said that super chat earlier, he doesn't like David Moyes. He wanted him out, pretty soon after he came in. He's never been a fan. I don't think he was a massive fan of the Lingard signing, but those two have really. I feel like Lingard has injected, they were doing well, and then since Lingard's come, he's injected like that extra bit of oomph into their campaign. I think I text you yesterday, and said I really think they got a good chance of finishing top 4 because there is a team which we're going to talk about in just a second who the wheels have come off with.
Well, I've got a good friend who's a West Ham fan, and he's a huge Mark Noble fan. Huge, like he thinks he's the best thing since sliced bread, and now he's come out the side. He's desperate for them to lose, and I'm like, listen, you know what I mean? Mark's had an amazing career. He's done really well. He's played for this one club all his life, but sometimes it's time just to step aside and come on when needed, and let these younger players just kick the club onto another level. The Declan Rices, the Jesse Lingards, the Jared Bowens, the Ben Ramas, the Antonios. You know what I mean? Let these players push the club on, and you just from the background, maybe look at coaching or look at nurturing, and just enjoy yourself, because it's what's going on at that football club is just phenomenal. You know what I mean? If they can get a little bit of success, and I mean European football or Champions League football in that stadium, then they could start to attract some huge players, because London attracts anywhere. That football club, full stadium wise, must be one of the best grounds to play in. It's like Wembley.
So interesting. We got our second question on Tell Me Why Now, and Geraint has just put this comment in. He says United should have kept him, I think he's referring to Lingard, and got shot of Martial. Now, my question is, for the second question is, will Anthony Martial leave Manchester United in the summer, and should he? Andy, are you going first, or is Cohen going first this time?
Cohen, it's up to you.
I'll go first on this one.
Okay, then.
Right, so should Anthony Martial leave Man United in the summer, or will he? Right, like at the moment, it seems to be in vogue for people to have a go at certain people at players for a little while, and then they'll find their form, and then they're the best thing since sliced bread. At the end of last year, Martial was flying, absolutely flying, right? And playing the same position, scoring goals, and he really looked the part. This year he hasn't, and you know what it's like. Confidence is such a fragile thing that somebody says something bad about you, and if it affects you in the wrong way, then getting it back is really, really hard. So, if it comes to the stage, if he's going to be constantly knocked, then perhaps it is time for him to go. Man United will probably let him go anyway, because they've got James, they've got Greenwood,
and that's your time there, Cohen. But you carry on
that job. So if I was him, I'd probably say, go on then. I'm going to go. I've been at Man United, and go somewhere where perhaps he might be more appreciated and under less pressure. A bigger fish in a smaller pond, maybe.
Interesting. Andy, same question to you, my friend. Time starts now.
I agree with Cohen that he had an amazing end of the season last season. I think the problem with him is he's so used to being Man United's best player. And this year you've got Fernandes, who's taken everyone's mantle. You've still got Rashford. You've got Greenwood, who's coming through. You've got Cavani, who steps up when he's needed to. Even Paul Pogba's now deciding that he wants to turn up week in, week out, which is a fantastic thing for United and for English football. But for Martial himself now, I think he himself, with him being a big name player, he needs to be the best player in the team. And because he's not that at United, I don't see anything else apart from him moving. I think Man United should cash in on him. I think they'll get good value for him, and I think they could use that value to go and bring in a player who suits them a little bit better. If that's a centre forward who could take the pressure off or play alongside a Cavani. But I do believe he will leave, and I believe you should probably cash in on him.
And that's your time there. Yeah, it's an interesting one because ultimately he's a really young player, and which is why I think Solskjaer would prefer to keep him. I think the signing of Cavani has probably hurt his progress a little bit because before Cavani came in, it looked like Martial was going to be their central forward with the likes of Rashford and Fernandes and Daniel James, etc. behind him. They signed Cavani. Cavani has obviously come in and looked every bit the world-class player, which has meant that they've shunted Martial and Rashford around a little bit. None of them want to play on the right, and so they've basically got three left wingers or three left forwards in Daniel James, Rashford, and Martial. They all want to play off the left. They can't all play off the left, and it'll be interesting what they do because they're never ever going to sell Rashford. They may loan out Daniel James, but then he started scoring recently as well, so it's going to be interesting what they do. They'll get good money for him because he's so young and he hasn't done badly for them.
And that's for me, Sam. That's what I think's the important part of it because you know what I mean. Sometimes
sorry, Andy. I'm just going to cut you off, mate, very quickly because I want to ask you something which you're going to probably will fit into what you're going to say. Do you think it depends if they end up selling Pogba because that could have a big impact on it? They don't.
I don't think you can sell them both. I think if United sold both of those players, I think it would be as a fan, you know what I mean, as a Man United fan. I'm not a Man United fan, but as a Man United fan, you see that as really negative business that you've got rid of your two biggest players, unless you brought in some huge players before you sold them both.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But my point I was going to refer to about it's just the way modern football is now. You know what I mean? It was different when I played, different when Cohen played, and teams like that number 9, being physical, being big and strong, and having the runners out wide and from deep. You know what I mean? And having a different way of playing. You know what I mean? For me, before it was, you'd probably have a lightweight, quicker centre forward for balls over the top. It doesn't have that anymore. You know what I mean? Everything's played down the sides and down the wings and in the number 10 area for Fernandes and for a David Silva, so to speak, for ex-Man City and things. And so yeah, you know what I mean? I think Man United are just following the grain of what works and what works for them and successful for them. And because somebody doesn't fit their mould or get a place in the team, then for me, I think you've got to cash in before people lose their value or their valuation. Because that can go quickly as well, by the way.
Oh, yeah. So just before we flick back completely to Cohen and his career, which I want to do, so I don't want to spend too much time on this, but a few people have sort of mentioned it and asked, what is going on with Liverpool Football Club? Because there's issues, Andy, isn't there, Cohen? Both?
Listen, I hope they turn things around very quickly, because I could see Jurgen Klopp doing something stupid, as in just resigning and leaving that post. I hope he doesn't, because
he's done so much for them, mate.
He has, but he's going through a lot personally. I know he lost his mum not so long ago, and I don't want emotions to run high one week and reporters ask him the wrong question and someone else say something negative to him, and he just decides, you know what, I don't need this anymore. I'm a successful manager. I've just won the Premier League. I can go and get another job in another country, the biggest clubs, by the way. He could go to Real Madrid, Barcelona tomorrow. Yeah, he's that good.
He could go home to Germany and probably get the Bayern Munich job.
He can get the biggest job, yeah. You know what I mean? So I hope not, because he's such a character. He's very good at what he does. He's put Liverpool and the Premier League to another level. But what's going on? I don't know. I've not got the answers to it. You know what I mean? Mate. I don't think it's helping. And I said this last week. I don't know what Cohen thinks, but they must have a young player who can play centre half. You don't have to play Henderson, Fabiano. You don't have to play these experienced midfielders centre half, because playing the midfield and centre half is too chalk and cheese. They're not the same positions. It's different positions, different tactics, different way of tackling, different way of positioning yourself. Players are playing on them and they're getting some real good rewards, and it's sad to see, because the players are top players, the manager's a top manager, the club's a top club, but everything's going wrong at the same time, and I do fear for. I don't think he'll get the sack, but I just think he might do something stupid like resign, because he doesn't need the hassle.
Yeah, just a blip for me, as far as I'm concerned. Liverpool will come back strong, as you say, hopefully sooner rather than later, but so many teams this year, well, there've been so many games on top of each other. When you have a loss of form, if it's only like 2 or 3 weeks, you might have lost 6 games.
Yeah.
And that Man City would, that everyone's saying now, Man City, they're playing brilliant, whatever. They had a little spell. Man United have had a spell. Leicester, probably not so much of a spell, but they've been really poor at home. So many clubs have had a spell of not doing well. Chelsea, as soon as Lampard has a couple of bad games, they get rid of him. They did well to even get to Europe last year.
Yeah.
With all the embargoes and restrictions that were in place, and he blooded the youngsters and gave them a chance. They've come through, and then as soon as you have a little bit of a blip, they get rid of him. Unbelievable.
So I totally agree. It's not fair, though, is it? It's not fair.
So, sorry, mate. Gavin's made this comment here, and he's a Liverpool fan. He says they've got Reece Williams, Ben Davies, and Nico Williams. In his opinion, he doesn't trust them. Well, I got to disagree there, because I would play Nico Williams as a centre-back every single week over Henderson or Fabiano.
I think
as centre-back.
He could play there. He's got the pace to play there. Maybe he's questioning his height. Obviously he's just signed a lad from Preston North End. He just signed a lad from Davies from Preston North End. That was a strange one for me. I thought he might have gone out and bought a player from overseas, even if it's a young player and someone who the scouts have been looking at, and someone who they can nurture from when Van Dijk comes back. You know what I mean? That was a strange call. It was a very strange call, but it was. It's just the way it's the times of football side. You know what I mean? Clubs aren't generating any money. There's no supporters going to games, so clubs' hands are tied a little bit. You know what I mean? It's a great move for the boy. Listen, dream come true for him, but he won't be enjoying it at the minute. But you know what I mean? I'm sure, like Cohen, they'll come good. They'll come good because Liverpool have got the best players. You know what I mean? If not the best players in the league, just behind Man City.
100%, mate. So the fisherman asked, could you ask Cohen what it was like playing in Europe against Standard Liège? I travelled out there to the game, and it was an amazing trip. Yeah,
Standard Liège. Listen, it was a good trip. My opinion of that is that I felt we let ourselves down a little bit because we were actually 2-1 up away, and their manager had said that they expected to beat us, and then we went 2-1 up, and I felt if we could have held it just for a minute, 2 minutes, then the crowd had already started to turn. As soon as we went 2-1 up, they went straight down the other end, scored, and then it was like whoosh, and it was just like the Alamo from then on. So great night in terms of the experience and all that sort of stuff, but I do feel that we let ourselves down a little bit in not being able to hold that lead just for 5-10 minutes and really get them going. The crowd would have turned. We would have probably ended up winning that match and maybe the tie.
How good was it, Cohen, to play in Europe? You know what I mean? Obviously, to achieve and play against some of the teams you played against. I mean, the nights. You know what I mean? Obviously, the night games. How important it was to the supporters. But as a player, to pit your wits against some of Europe's best players, how good was that?
Yeah, it was great. It was one of the things that when I was playing for Cardiff, and you thought, well, just imagine how many top-level players haven't had the opportunity to play in Europe. And then we were able to get in there, and I was able to play there just through perhaps qualifying through the Welsh Cup and whatever it was. So it was a really good experience. Would have been better if we would have managed to win a couple of games or something like that, but that wasn't to be. But it was good to play.
Well, I think me and Si spoke about obviously the Welsh Cup. You know what I mean? And obviously the lack of importance it's taken now. You know what I mean? And I just think it's disrespectful because obviously I'm really good friends with Craig Harrison. Craig's been on the show. Obviously the most successful manager in Welsh football history. You know what I mean? With the amount of things he's won for TNS. You know what I mean? The Welsh Cups, the amount of Champions League games he's played in the Europa League. He's now at Connors Quay. They're the games which he stands as his most proudest moments. You know what I mean? Listening to that Champions League music, listening to the crowd as he's walking out at Legia Warsaw, for example, the stories he's told me. And these are the kind of things what don't happen every week. These are the things what don't happen to people at all. And you know what I mean? For me, I think it's teams. you know what I mean, and people not pushing the Welsh Cup enough and letting teams still have the heritage and the chance to play in Europe, because Cardiff City, Swansea City, Wrexham, you know what I mean, would love the opportunity to still progress and play in Europe, you know what I mean, as part of a British team, and just to give it a go. The fans would absolutely, they'd absolutely kill for it. They'd absolutely love it, and the stadiums would be bouncing, and it would just give Welsh football such a lift and players such a lift. It would be amazing.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, so there's so many questions. I'm kind of just scanning through. Donna said, do you still keep in touch with any of your former Cardiff City teammates?
Is that for me, is it?
Yeah.
Not so much. I mean, I see Jace a little bit, or used to see Jace through the college football program. See Gibbo, through the odd charity games and stuff like that. That's when I see most of the lads. Carl Dale would be one that was most friendly with, but I think he's moved away from the area a little bit now. So it's not a case of avoiding them or anything like that. It's just that people have got other lives and moved in other ways, and it's great when we get together, but we don't get together that often.
Of course, yeah. Question from me then: what was it like playing with that Carl Dale Chris Pike partnership?
Well, to start off with, Daly took my place, didn't he? Because I was the centre forward. And then if you remember that Eddie May bought Paul Miller as well as the centre forward. The pairing was supposed to be Carl Dale and Paul Miller. But I think the thing with that team anyway, that there were so many people could play in different positions. I could play pretty much anywhere along the left or the right or whatever it might be, or up front. Daly for that championship year, then he got injured, didn't he, at Christmas time? I think he was going to go to Middlesbrough actually, and he got injured, and so he was out. But I was able to cover, and Blakey was able to cover. So it was. The thing is, and I've seen Daly do this so many times, is that he worked on percentages, and every time a shot went in, if you watched him, he always followed it in every time. And he said, look, listen, if I do that all season, I will get myself 10 tap-ins. I only have to score 10 good goals, and I'm at 20 goals a season, man. Then, so Daly was one of, and Pikey were both finishers. And then you need that sort of person in your team to you can run around as much as you want, but you need to have somebody who puts the ball in the net.
How important was it to have that competition for places then in that centre forward area, to push you and you to push them, and for the club to have some success? How important was it to have a strong unit?
Yeah, I think competition makes you play, and makes you keep those standards high. And it wasn't so much there was no bad feeling about it or anything like that. It was just that you knew there was going to be injuries, and then if there was injuries or you weren't playing quite so well, that there was somebody there who was going to come on and could do the job. So sometimes somebody gets injured, the main striker gets injured, and there's a big drop off between your main striker and the next person. Now, I'm not going to say I was as good a striker as Daly or anything like that, but I could go in and I could do a job up there, and then Nick Richardson could come out and do a job on the right as he would do, or Blakey could go and do a job up front and I would go on the left, or whatever it might be. We had Robbie James who could play midfield or at the back or full back, and we had Derek Brazil who could play centre half or right back or centre midfield. There was loads of people interchangeable. Yeah,
which I think is important, Si, because it relates it back to my time as obviously City, that when you're not playing, that you've got to keep yourself right mentally, physically, because you're going to get that opportunity, and you don't want to let the team down, yourself down, the fans down. It's so relevant and so important that you've got to keep yourself right, because you know that chance might be in 5 games, 10 games, 20 games, 25 games. But if it's just that one opportunity, you've got to make sure you take it with both hands, because you've waited for that chance. You know, you worked hard for that chance. So it's so important that you're ready for it.
Cohen, you mentioned a minute ago Nathan Blake, and I just really wondered, what was the initial reaction from the other players? What was the opinion of his ability? Obviously, he went on to be an incredible player. He came into that Cardiff squad around 1990. What was the reaction of the other players to him?
Well, Blakey he made his debut as a left back, and I used to hate when we used to sort of have a trial match against against the ones who weren't playing. He would sometimes play centre half, and I hated when he was there marking me, because he's had everything. He's got a hell of a spring. He's really strong. He's quick. You could put him anywhere, and he'd be able to do a decent job. Right-footed and left-footed. So I don't know. I always thought. I mean, he made his name as a centre forward. I always thought he was a really good number 10 and an excellent defender. But if you put him at the back, are you losing too much? Maybe not now that the game has changed. But I mean, listen, you can always tell quality. So he came in and did it. The only thing that was ever missing with Blakey was whether he could do it consistently. And as soon as he got that consistency to his game, then he moved on.
Well, yeah, that's fascinating. I gotta say, to just imagine Nathan Blake. I just in my head I was imagining him as a central defender, as a sweeper, because he was naturally and technically very good. I could just imagine him as a sweeper at the back, just bringing it out from defence in the modern game. Very interesting stuff.
He could do it. Can you remember years ago when they did that the sort of 100-meter sprint, the races, looking for the quickest player?
Yeah.
Can you remember that, Anne?
Yeah, remember. Was it John Williams? Was it John Williams?
John Williams won it. Yeah. Now we had a list. We were going to send somebody, right? And so we had a race, and Blakey was the quickest of all of them. So Blakey probably won by half a yard or whatever it might be, and then it was me, Daly, and Surley quite close, but Blakey was comfortably the quickest, right? And till we found out that you had to then go to Plymouth for the race, and then that was it. But how often do you run 100 metres in a football match?
Yeah, I know. I did find that strange when they set it up, and it was because was the final eventually at Wembley as well. Yeah. I think when the final.
Don't run 100, because there used to be a player called Junior Bent who was I think he was at Bristol City or Bristol Rovers, one of those two, and he was like grease lightning, but he was winning it up to maybe 50 yards, and then John Williams came through and stuff like that, because that's where you want your pace, over 30, 40, 50 yards, not over 100.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's short bursts as well, isn't it? You know what I mean? I did watch it with interest, because because I think John Williams was the flying postman or something, wasn't he? He was nicknamed in the end, and to be fair, he was rapid. And I always thought, if I can get anywhere near how quick he was, that you've got a chance. As a centre forward, that if you're quick, you've got an opportunity. But he just seemed on another level, and he seemed big and solid as well. You know what I mean? It was very strange. Yeah, that he was that quick.
Winning gave him confidence, didn't it? He developed another couple of yards of pace once he won that.
Yeah, it's incredible, that, isn't it?
Yeah, well, he went on to another level, didn't he? Because he was did he play for Swansea at the time, or was it Coventry City?
He was at Swansea, I think.
Was it Swansea at the time, and then he moved to? Yeah, I think he went to West Brom, and then I'm sure he went to Coventry City as well. I'm sure he. But I think it certainly helped his career at the time to being the flying postman and being the quickest player, because I think he got him a move, helped him get a move, which is fine.
Well, Blake got him a move. Blake didn't go.
There's a couple of questions. I know Cade asked a question, and my dad's just re-asked the question about obviously the corner.
Did you ever play at Ayresome Park?
Yeah, did you ever play at Ayresome Park against Middlesbrough, Cohen?
I think I did actually, because
FA Cup. I think you played in the FA Cup when they beat them 2-1, 93, 94.
That's right,
yeah.
With I think it was it Graham Pollock? Was it? Did he play midfield or something like
Jamie Pollock.
that? Jamie Pollock.
Yeah. Did Jamie get sent? Did Jamie get sent off? Did he?
No, he didn't.
Oh, Jamie's a nutter. Jamie's a nutter. Yeah. Well, I thought that game straight away because I'm sure I went with my dad because we used to go to all the games. It was a midweek game. I think we drew the first game in Ninian Park, and I think it was a shoo-in that Middlesbrough were going to win. You know what I mean? They had Craig Hignett, Paul Wilkinson, John Hendry. We had some really they had all my heroes and great players, and I think we turned there just expecting to win. And I'm sure either Stanty scored or even Blakey might have scored. I'm not sure that day, but I know it was 2-1 anyway.
Yeah. I won't be able to tell you who scored.
But it just reminded me of Essen Park. It just reminded me of Ninian Parkside. Just red and blue. It's quite similar. But exactly. The good history, good atmosphere. But very missed.
We've had some good had some good questions. Your dad has asked a couple of great ones. I will not forget them. I will get through as many as I can. But I want to go to this one first. Will says, Cohen, with your obvious pace and ability, we're wondering why you didn't get scouted for a professional team earlier in your career.
Well, I was playing on the park till I was 21 for a start. So, just paying your £3 subs and having a kick about with your mates. So I think first of all, make sure that you play at the highest level, if that's what you want. I mean, I was quite happy to be doing that as well. So and then I decided to try and take it a bit more seriously, and just kept moving forward.
Like it.
How easy Cohen was the progression, or did you find any obstacles on the way which got in the way?
I don't think I found too many obstacles. I moved up, reasonably quickly afterwards. But I suppose one of the things that always stood me in good stead was that, I in fact, what it says about pace, and I never consider myself particularly quick. Because pace for me, especially at football, is over 40, 50 yards and stuff like that. And if I was running, I used to run like the 200 and 400, that sort of stuff. So, with the endurance. But I think what helped me was the fact that I could play in a few different positions. Yeah. So it makes you more valuable, and means that, if I wasn't playing, I was always a sub because I could cover so many different positions. And the fact that you've got a little bit of pace is a bit of an X factor as well, isn't it?
Does that become a positive or a negative, Cohen, about being versatile? For you as a player.
For me, positive for me, because like I said, I nearly always played, and if I didn't play, then I'd be sub, and then. I think I did feel sometimes that every time there was a change, I would move positions. Every time a sub come on, I'd be moved. And so I felt sometimes that, I wasn't getting the chance to settle into a game properly. I was constantly having to adjust right and left, from to centre forward to left back to right back, stuff like that.
How hard is that then, Cohen? Because obviously we spoke at length on the Friday Championship show side, especially, haven't we, about Cardiff City playing players, in our opinion, out of position, playing midfielders at right back, and people who should be in various positions in the normal habitat, basically, for us. So how hard is it for a player then to be moved around and still be expected to perform at the level which a player in that normal position would be a player?
Yeah. I didn't find it too hard. It was, I think each position is a different mentality, really. Obviously, if you're centre forward, your job is to score your goals, and so you're going with that bit more selfish mindset, perhaps. As a winger, I used to see my job as balls coming in from my side. No, if I could cross them, great. If not, then perhaps Derek Brazil or the right back, if they're doubling up on me, I'd lay it back and then he'd cross it in. As long as the cross came in, then again I was happy. As a fullback, well, my job is to stop them and from being quite a fair player, normally I'd turn into some sort of stupid animal and get booked all the time and stuff like that. Because it's a different mentality. So unfortunately, I have to play fullback too often.
I totally agree. How important then is it to have a strong relationship with your fullback or your right winger, depending on what you're playing? You know what I mean? You see the Gary Neville Beckham, so to speak. You know what I mean? Who just telepathic, just knew what each other was going to do, supported when you needed support. And how important is it to have that link with that same player, wide man?
Yeah, well, football is about partnerships all over, isn't it? You know, we were talking earlier about Liverpool and not having that defensive centre-half partnership. And, you know, when I was playing on the left side, me and Surly, he'd be bombing up and down and I'd come and cover for him and all that sort of stuff. And that would cause teams problems. It wasn't quite the same with Derek when he was there because he wouldn't get past me so much, but he'd just back up. And then I'd just turn around and roll it back and he would knock a decent ball in. So, you know, as a centre forward, you and your strike partner, you know, working together. So it's all about the relationships, and that's perhaps maybe you don't get that quite so much now because it's more of a squad game now, isn't it?
Yeah. I totally agree. No, it's so interesting what you just said there though about Derek, and I don't mean I'm not going to say this in a negative way, but you knowing what people's plans are in that game situation, you know what I mean? So you know Derek's not going to overlap you, so you know you've got to be positive yourself. You know he's going to back him up, which is great, so you've always got the laid back for the long cross. But you know that someone else, for example, if you're playing the left or someone else is playing full back, that they're going to overlap you, so then you've got to give them the ball, because if you give the ball away, you've got a long way to go back and give the ball away, and you've got somebody shouting in your ear as well, I'm guessing, to until you win the ball back. So it's so important to get that longevity and get that relationship over the course of weeks and a run of games, because you know what I mean, I know myself, you know what I mean, I remember I didn't play a lot with Ernie, but every time I played with him I enjoyed it, but I didn't get that run of games. I'd always play with either a Leo or a Thorny, because Lenny liked the big man and little man, and it was good, but sometimes I just wish I'd have been given 6, 7, 8 games maybe as alongside somebody, just to see what it was like, you know what I mean. But people have their philosophies and ways of playing, which is it's fantastic, you know, because we've all got our own ideas about football and how it should be played. And listen, Lenny's done a great job in his managerial career. So who am I to start questioning his tactics after 1,000 games or however many he's got?
100%. It's still got loads of questions, so I'm just going to kind of flit through a couple.
Was that my dad there? Did he say Cav scored that day as well?
Yeah, so
did he?
It was
93?
Middlesbrough 1, Cardiff 2, 93-94. Cav scored for Boro.
Wow,
that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Did he have silver hair, Dad? I hope he did. I'm sure he did, didn't he? Still had silver hair all his life. Born with silver hair.
Matthew Angel sent in a couple of really good questions. There was one earlier. He said to all of us, do we think that football should bring in a yellow card system like rugby, whereby you have I think it's like a 10-minute breather, basically. You have 10-minute sim bin and then you come back on. Or do you think it should stay as it is? And you go first, mate.
What we talking about? Are we talking about that if you do something specific like shirt pull, or are we on about? Because I'm confused with the rules anyway, because some referees give a red card for a professional foul, some don't. I thought the rules had changed, that if a penalty's been given and it's a professional foul, the penalty is a punishment and it's a yellow card. I've seen a few red cards now. I've seen a few daft handballs, which have resulted in red cards. You know what I mean? Which weren't deliberate. For me, if they pick on a certain area, if that's shirt pulling, if it's the professional foul, if it's deliberate handball, I don't know. If it's something like that, then yeah, maybe I'm all for it. But it'd have to be for that certain thing that players know that they can't do it, and if they do it, they know the punishment for it, possibly.
Yeah, I think it's difficult, isn't it, at the moment, because no one seems to know exactly what the wording of the different rules means, which is causing confusion for the players.
It can't be a yellow
card
either. It can't be a yellow card either, can it?
It's just very difficult. I couldn't tell you. I'm not a rugby.
Yeah, so it's got to be purple, pink. It's got to be something on it. It's got to be purple, pink, orange, black, white. Yeah, it's got to be something. Yeah, just random.
So the other question which Matthew asked, Cohen, he said, does anyone else at the Welsh Cup final when Cardiff beat Real 5-0 He says, if I remember correctly, Phil Stant scored a hat-trick. And Cohen, did you get the other two? What was Phil Stant like to play with?
I do remember that. And I did score the other two. And then I was on for a hat-trick, and then he moved me to left-back, which I wasn't ready
No. Nightmare.
But Stancy was mad. Again, a goal scorer. You know, he's got this sort of myth around him, sort of stuff. But he's one of the breath of fresh air and really, really funny. The character that you would sort of need in your dressing room, especially if you're struggling a little bit, things like that. Then, he'd be one of those ones. And then he'd also, after the match, he'd be in the and he'd want a fag, and he'd say, oh, I'm dying for a fag. Just watch out, make sure Eddie doesn't come and see me. So try and have a fag in the bar or something like that. But can I just say a little story about that cup final, that Welsh Cup final?
Gosh.
Because we won it, and then we were taking the Welsh Cup, which is a beautiful cup, by the way. It's really, really nice, really, really ornate. Obviously, I've never seen the FA Cup, but Kevin Ratcliffe has, and he was saying that the Welsh Cup is nicer than the FA Cup.
Good man.
Because of how it's so ornate. But I was taking it around around in the crowd, and this bloke said to me, "Can I hold it?" So me, like an idiot, I gave him the Welsh Cup, and he ran off. I thought I've lost the Welsh Cup, and he ran off into the crowd with the Welsh Cup. So I was starting to panic, and then I was thinking, should I tell somebody about this? And then just as I was starting to panic, he came back. Then he'd ran off to have his photo taken with the Welsh Cup. I thought, thank God for that. I gave it to somebody else, and that was it. I didn't want it again then.
I bet you're glad social media wasn't around then, Cohen, because that would have been sort of like that on video, wouldn't it? You'll have been looking around thinking, what's going on? That's fabulous, that.
And your dad said the Cav had black hair during that game, which is interesting.
Yeah.
The fisherman, he's back. He's asked another question, and he's loving it tonight. He says, was the Man City FA Cup game the best atmosphere Cohen played in at Ninian Park, where Nathan Blake scored that famous goal, of course?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it would be either between that or the last game when we were going up before the Scunthorpe in 92, 93. So I think, who was it? I think it might have been Shrewsbury or someone like that. We might have played the last home game in the year we went up. But it's definitely going to be one of the top two at Ninian Park.
What was the most hostile game you played in during your time at Cardiff?
Hostile? Well, it's got to be the Swansea ones. I mean, they used to sort of come up and then sort of rip up all this seats in the stands and stuff like that. So I would have thought that they would be the most hostile. Bristol sometimes, but when you're on. Well, for me anyway, when I'm playing, I don't notice the crowd. You have a sort of background noise, but I wouldn't really be able to tell you what they're saying and all that sort of stuff. So, in fact, I'd rather play in a hostile atmosphere than no atmosphere at all.
I totally agree. How about somewhere else then, Cohen? So where's the best atmosphere? Obviously, apart from teams that you've played for, so where's the best atmosphere that you've played in an away stadium?
What, apart from the 92, 93? Well,
just anywhere, just anywhere. So apart from Ninian.
When we won the league, we went up to Scunthorpe, and that was basically a home game anyway, because so many fans went up there. But if you're talking about just a normal, regular sort of game, I don't know. I would say maybe the European ones. You got your Standard Liège, Admira Wacker. In fact, that wasn't that good an atmosphere. But again, it was one of these ones where it's just so unusual. I always remember when we went out to Admira Wacker, and we went onto the pitch, and their fans were singing "Welcome Cardiff, Welcome," and we're thinking, what? Can't believe they're singing "Welcome Cardiff, Welcome," because I know if it had been our fans, they'd waited for you to sort of acknowledge them. We were thinking, shall we acknowledge them or not? Because if it had been Cardiff fans, you'd have gone to acknowledge, they'd go, ah! And all that sort of stuff. So we didn't really know how to react to it, but they were actually genuine in welcoming us to their ground. But I would say probably Standard Liège was a decent atmosphere.
Excellent. Andy's dad asks, who was the hardest or most skillful opponent?
Opponent? Oh, God. The hardest? Well, hardest as in dirtiest. Can you remember the Blackpool used to have a centre half called Billy Biggs or Briggs or something like that. And we played him, and I'm sure the ref was scared of him because I was actually off the pitch picking the ball up. It had been out the pitch for about 10 seconds, and then he suddenly came through me. I got locked up, and the referee just looked at himself. Come on, Billy, don't do that. So that's just absolutely ridiculous. But I don't know. Most skillful. I don't know. I was thinking about the most skillful player that I have ever played with is a lad. Well, he used to be at Spurs, but I know him from Barry. Gareth Knott. Unbelievably skillful, and he did this things that in matches as well that I've never seen anybody do. But he would be the most skillful that I played with. But I don't know about against, because if I'm up, if I'm up against a centre half, for example, I wouldn't expect them to be too skillful or anything like that.
Well, I said this to Andy. I think this was this morning, Andy, or it might have been last night when we was kind of discussing. He was asking me my memories of you, and I said one of the things which stands out to me. Obviously, I was only in the early days of my football watching career. I was only a small child as well, because I'm younger than both of you two. Just to point out. Only a little bit, by the way.
He threw that one in. He always says that. He says it every week.
Just reminding you. But the thing which stood out for me was your skill and your technical ability and your flair, because that wasn't something, in the late 80s, early 90s, like pace and flair and skill wasn't something which every midfielder or every attacker had, because you had a lot of kind of target men, you had a lot of hard men in midfield. It was, it's a vastly different game to what you have in 2021, and that's why you always stood out for me, was because of those traits. How Craig says, and I was going to ask this as well, what was life like under Eddie May's Barmy Army? Because Craig says how I feel. It feels very reminiscent of Neil Warnock's time in terms of how the fans were very much behind the team, and it was a good atmosphere and obviously a successful time as well.
Yeah, Eddie fostered a lot of sort of team spirit. There was a lot of sort of bonding going on. I mean, when he first came to the club, he was as a youth team coach, I think it might have been. So and the Beverley and all that sort of stuff. So he used to go down there quite a bit with maybe a couple of the players and stuff like that. The team spirit side of it was quite big when Eddie was there, and he was also one of those coaches who, if it was going well, didn't believe in trying to tinker with it and stuff like that. So if we were doing quite well, then training was great. Just used to perhaps go in, do a few set pieces, have a bit of five-a-side and stuff like that, and that would be it. It was just like, listen, things are going well, I'm leaving it as it is.
Excellent. I love it. I love hearing these stories. Cohen, when it came to the time for you to leave Cardiff City, were you kind of ready to move on? Was it your choice? Was it the club's choice? Was it a manager's choice? And how did you feel about it at the time?
It was Rick Wright's choice. Eddie was the manager, and he left at the same time, and he went to Barry, and then signed me for Barry. But I think from what Eddie said to me, I don't know how true it was. It was a case of like Rick Wright just didn't want me to stay there anymore. Probably felt my wages weren't justified or whatever it might be. I thought it was a little bit early to tell the truth, but 32, I'm still pretty fit. Free from injuries and all that sort of stuff. So I thought I had, probably another 2 or 3 years left, really, that I could have done a decent job. And I didn't feel at the time that they had anybody who was ready-made to replace me either. So I thought it was a bit early, but if they don't want it, then what can you do?
Is it important, Cohen, to play as long as you can? Because a good friend of mine did say to me, he said play as long as you can because you're a long time retired, which I tried, and then I retired, and then I came back to help a friend out and ended up really enjoying my football again, which I think kept me going mentally for probably a few more years, and then now I'm quite lucky that we have an over 40s league here, which is just so much fun, and just absolutely love it because I get everything I want from it, because I get the football, which is great because it's a little bit tapered down, a lot slower. I'm one of the youngest, which is even better. But then you get the social aspect, changing room banter, a few pints after a game. So it's just win-win. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's definitely important to play as long as you can. I was playing Prem until 39, and then when I left, which was pretty much a bit because of injury and stuff like that, I didn't play for perhaps a year, 2 years, stuff like that, and got back into it. And the veterans football, it wasn't at that time. Veterans football wasn't as organised as it is now. You could just turn up and play and all that sort of stuff, and it was good, like you say, the banter and all that sort of stuff, and it wasn't that same intensity. But now they've made it a little bit more organised, I suppose they would call it, and for me, well, I can't play now anyway, but it did take some of the shine off of it, and having to be registered and all that sort of stuff, and then you probably find as well that people would just want to kick you, and I can't be bothered with all that. So
well, that happened to me. That happened to me when I was dropping down towards the end of my professional, semi-professional career. I didn't enjoy it, and then when I retired, and then when I came back, I came back I just said to me, mate, he was a manager at a team, I think it was Step 7 or Step 8, and I just said, do you fancy a fullback? And I thought, I'll just play fullback, I'll stay out of trouble, I'll just get the ball and put the ball in the good areas and just enjoy just running about and having that just license to just do what I want. If I want to go forward, I can go forward. If I don't, I don't need to. And it was just nice to have that freedom. But I just think that's one thing I didn't enjoy, is someone else making a name off themselves or for themselves off me, and just trying to kick me, which wasn't for me at all. Wasn't for me. One question, obviously, I want to talk about, Cohen, and one subject I want to talk about, and obviously it's relevant about what happened at the weekend with certain players that I want to talk about. But did you ever have to endure any racism during your football career from players or fans?
Off of fans, off of players. I mean, you're going back a good few years now. I'm not saying it was right, but it was perhaps more accepted, perhaps. I don't know if that's the right word, but used to happen all the time. Blakey used to get it much worse than me, because Blakey would beat the man 2, 3 or 4 times. I mean, if I beat the man once, I'm not coming back to beat him again. I'm off. I'm not leaving it. But then I think it's ironic. The worst racism, I think, was at Burnley, where, and I couldn't really understand it, because they had so many black players themselves. I'm getting so much abuse, but it is what it is, I suppose.
Was there any support mechanism in place, Cohen, at the time? You know what I mean? Because you say there that that Burnley had black players as well at the time, and so how did they feel hearing that to an opposing player? Because
well, you'd have to ask the Burnley players. I just think, you know, I mean, I've been in change rooms when people have been saying, "Oh, you got to kick that black," whatever it might be, and they're saying, "Oh, not." I'm saying, "Hang on," and they're saying, "Oh, it's not you. You're one of us." You know, I mean, and it was that type of culture then. You know, I've had some managers who have been so incredibly racist. It's a shame to even think about it. And they will say stuff, especially the older generation, maybe again where it was more prevalent and more accepted, and they haven't sort of adjusted to it. But yeah, it's been incredible.
What do you put that down to? How would you put that down to being uneducated in terms of life education? You know what I mean? And just what do you put it down to?
What, to them being able to say
to them to them saying it and saying that things are acceptable? Yeah.
Well, I think perhaps, especially with the older generation, it was a case of that's how they were perhaps brought up, a lack of education, a lack of understanding. That's probably what it is now as well.
Yeah.
You know, I used to try and turn it on its head and think, well, why are they doing this? And they're doing it 9 times out of 10. They're doing it because they're trying to put you off, right? So why are they trying to put you off? Because they're scared of what you are capable of doing. And I used to use that as my spur to carry on playing. I didn't let it get me upset or anything like that. I just thought, right, okay, well, I'm going to try and give them something to be scared of.
Which is a fantastic way to look at this side, by the way. You know what I mean? Because you're using the negative as a real positive to try and show people, you know what I mean, that the real you, you know, because listen, we've spoke about on this show, you know, we've probably given it too much airtime, to be honest, because you know what I mean, because we don't like. No, we do, but I don't like to give those idiots.
They is kind of caught in the middle, aren't you?
You know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean. You want to make a point of it to say it's out of order, but then you know what I mean. People enjoy talking about it because they've done it because they want to be famous for 5-10 minutes, and I hate that. You know what I mean? I loved Ivan Toney's interview. I don't know if you've seen it at the weekend. He did it on Sky Sports Soccer Saturday. That he's got his Burnley team to refuse to take the knee because he just feels as though it's a ticky box exercise. And I was a big fan of Ivan anyway. Just you know what I mean, before he did this, and I like him more now as a man. I think the education that he's got, the way he talks, how passionate he is about himself, his family, his football, his ability, just everything went hand in hand for me, and I just thought it was just an excellent way of doing it. And you know, I think a few more clubs need to follow suit and support him and other people, and just stand together, because it wasn't never for me a ticky box exercise. It was something which was important, and I think we've been lost in translation somewhere, and I don't know where. I don't know how it's all turned around in full circle, and it's still happening, and probably more now than it was 9 months ago. You know what I mean? I just don't understand it, and I just wish somehow that we could find a solution for it to stop.
It's incredibly frustrating. Reece David Evans asked while you were talking about that. He said, "Did you ever suffer any racial abuse from teammates?" You don't have to name names.
Well, I haven't. No, I know that other black players have, not at Cardiff, but we have talked about it before. So it does go on. But I haven't suffered it myself. No.
Okay. Yeah,
I think that's even worse so side for me, because you know what I mean. Yeah. You spend so much time with your peers, your teammates, your friends, and if that's happening in house, for me, it's scary, because there's no hiding place. That 90-minute game, for example, is never ending, because you could be stuck in the middle of a 2-year contract, 3-year contract, and you know what I mean. Those people are still there, and you go home, and you potentially worried about going back to training tomorrow, or got a game tomorrow, and that person who's saying horrible things and racially abusing you is expecting you to get him out the dirt, so to speak, on Saturday when he's struggling and he's having a bad time, and how people dare to think that that's going to be possible is beyond me. I don't like that. That drives me mad. That drives me mad. That to think think that happens.
So I've picked 3 questions from the live chat to finish us off, and I will allow Cohen to select which order they come. So Cohen, pick a number between 1 and 3.
Okay, I'll go 2, please.
And GD Parry says, have you any good stories about Robbie James?
About Robbie James? Listen, I haven't got any good stories particularly about Robbie James. All I will say is that when people have said say who's the best player that you've played with, then Robbie is normally the one that I think of, because obviously he's not with us anymore, but I sort of came into contact with him sort of towards the end of his career, and you know, he didn't have a great deal of pace, yet nobody ever skinned him. He could go by people despite having that, you know, really not too much tricks or whatever it might be. Yeah, he was just real quality player, and it would have been really good to have, you know, come across him earlier to see really how good he was.
Yeah, in his peak, because he was a special talent. My dad used to tell me stories, just like he used to say he was the best Welsh player of all time. He was just, he just used to love him. He was a big fan. So being his eldest son, I by just definition just automatically became a fan, even though I didn't really see a lot of him playing. Cade Childs asks, who's the most famous shirt you ever swapped with a player, if you did it at all?
We weren't allowed to swap shirts.
Yeah, we weren't.
No.
We weren't.
Was Harry Parsons there when you were there, Andy?
No. We had the kit man was Ian Lanning, and to be fair, I was best mates with Ian, and Ian lived with me for a bit and still wouldn't give me a spare shirt to swap. So I didn't get no special treatment. So Ian was even when I was at Middlesbrough, there was times that I remember played against David Ginola the first time, and I was a huge fan. You know, I was seeing him playing for Newcastle, ripping things up. So when I played against him, I said to me, mum and dad, because I was still living at mum and dad's at the time, and I said, I'm going to swap shirts with David, definitely. You know what I mean? And Brian Robson put a stop on that. No one's allowed to swap shirts. So I'm thinking the shirts I could have swapped would have been unbelievable, but it was more of a respect thing. You know what I mean? That he didn't do it, Brian didn't do it, so you're not doing it. You know what I mean? Because don't show any weakness. You know, show weakness on the pitch, you show weakness off the pitch. It's not happening. So it's not a regret. I would have liked to have had a little stash, because I would have never got rid of him. It would have always been something to look back on and have a little look. But I do get why people say not to do it, and I'm quite proud of it really now, because I've kept some really important shirts to me now because of that. So it's swings and roundabouts. Yeah.
No, I wish. No, we weren't really allowed to swap shirts, and I don't know whether it was a respect thing or whether just Harry didn't want to have to replace it or whatever.
Just a tight club.
It was. He'd be saying, "Do you not going to swap the shirts with him?" No. In fact, sometimes you have to really bargain with him at half time, because if you had like long sleeve and shirt sleeve, and he's saying, "No, I don't. I'm not going to get another shirt out because I don't want to wash two lots." It's freezing.
I remember Ian Lanning. I remember. So we were. I'm sure it was Chris Barker as well. So Chrissy cut his. The players went through this spell about cutting socks. So they used to wear white normal socks underneath football socks and cut the footballs. I didn't get it. I never did it. But the kit man used to pick the kit up at the end of the game, and Ian would pick it up and go, "Who's cut the sock?" And there'd be hell on after the game. You know what I mean? It would just cause problems. But then 5 or 6 people just followed suit and kept doing it every game. New pair of socks, cut it in half.
I bet you one knew why. No one knew where it came from or why they were doing it. It was just because everyone else was doing it.
I didn't get it, because they wore a white sock and then taped the blue sock onto the white. I didn't understand it. It just didn't make sense to me. It still doesn't to this day. I don't get it.
Last question from the chat, from the main man, Leslie Coates. He says, did Andy ever play at the Vetch Field, or was that before your time? I remember seeing a game in the FA Cup.
Well, Middlesbrough battered Swansea there 5-0. I remember my dad showed me a video, and Terry. I think Terry Cochran scored a worldie. Terry was an amazing player, amazing footballer. I never played there. I went there as a fan a couple of times. One of my good friends was playing. Paul Connor played for Swansea. Probably before I went to Cardiff, and then I went to watch a few games when I was at Cardiff City. You know, I mean, just to watch. But no, I never got to play there. I've never played away at Swansea ever in my life.
Don't think you missed much, mate. To be honest.
there goes our Swansea players coming on here.
Nah, they love me, mate. They love me. I'm only playing anyway. Come on now. They'd love to come on. I had Brett Johns on a few. Brett Johns has come on like 4 or 5 times, and he come on the championship show.
But Brett's fun though. Brett's
hardcore Swansea fan.
Yeah, Brett's fun though. Brett's fun and doesn't care.
He gets it. Nah, he gets it, and he ripped my head off as well. So it is what it is. But there we go. He's a UFC fighter. That's his job. Okay. Cohen, there was one last thing I just wanted to finish on from my point of view, and it was actually something you mentioned before the show, and that was that obviously we mentioned earlier that you were born in Georgetown, but actually you're I suppose official nationality, I guess you would say, is Welsh, isn't it? Tell us the story about that.
Yeah, I was born in Georgetown with a British passport, but I took Welsh citizenship I took Welsh citizenship so I could play for Cardiff in Europe, because in those days you were only allowed a certain amount of foreign players, and foreign players being anybody who's not Welsh. So by being able to take Welsh citizenship, then I'm not counted as a foreign player. So it meant that I was able to play, because otherwise he probably wouldn't have picked me, you know. So it was probably a case of looking after myself, to tell the truth.
That's important, though. It was an important strategy at the time to for Cohen to get that sorted so that he wouldn't become a foreign player, and B that like I said, you know what I mean, he wouldn't have probably got the game time and the opportunity to play in Europe, which is once in a lifetime chance, isn't it, to do that? So you know what I mean, it's a good choice.
Yeah, it's one of them, isn't it? I hated that rule. I thought it was ridiculous because you had like excuse me, sorry. Like, just for instance, I remember my dad would be watching like Man United on the TV, and Giggs wouldn't be able to play because he was Welsh, which counted as a foreign for them. But he'd come through their youth system from the age of 11 or whatever it was. Do you know what I mean? It's
and he was born in England.
Bizarre,
that's why it didn't make sense. You know what I mean? And that's what. Going back when Man United won the Cup Winners' Cup, and you were only allowed 4 or 5 foreign players, and you know what I mean, Giggs wouldn't be in the 16 or the 18 or whatever it was, or 14, but you'd have Andrea Kanchelskis playing on the right wing. It just wouldn't make sense, did it? The whole thing was mad.
Yeah,
madness.
Bizarre, mate. Absolutely bizarre. Okay, guys and girls, thank you ever so much for joining us. It's been amazing, and I nearly forgot again. Do you know what?
Gaz, I didn't even remind
Gaz
you.
sent a super chat all the way back at the start of the show. I can't find it now. It's bright orange. He sent a super chat of a whatever. He sent a super chat, which I greatly appreciate. Or that's massive for us as an independent channel, and I appreciate the support massively. He asked, "What's the story between me, my missus, and Willie Boland?" So the reason I know it's nothing massively exciting for you guys. The reason I know Willie Boland is because him and Andy and Cav and a few other people used to drink in the same pub that I did on the outskirts of Rada. My now wife worked in the said pub. Myself and my wife, we kind of were circling around each other, as you do. And Willie noticed we had all been drinking all day. We'd been watching Wales versus Scotland in the rugby. So we were a few beers worse for wear, and Willie Boland and his partner at the time sat us down at a table together, me and my wife, and literally talked to us for must have been like a couple of hours about getting our heads together and just going for it. And stop stop messing about, get together, and I think something like 20 years later, not quite 20 years, it's about 18 years later, 3 children, a marriage, a dog, house and a car. Here we are. And that's how I know Willie Boland. He got me and my wife together.
All the thanks to Willie. Good old Will. Good old Will.
Willie. Thanks. No, I am absolutely joking. I love my wife with all my heart. But
that's only because you just put something in the group chat there, so that's out of order.
Yeah, well, no, it is what it is. There you go.
There you go, Becky.
It is what it is. Look, Andy, just a little fun way to finish the show, and I had to because it was a super chat. So
you had to anyway because you're supposed to do it 3 weeks ago.
Supposed to do it long. It was probably longer than 3 weeks, wasn't it? But as ever, thank you to the guys for the super chat. That means so much for someone who, everything which we do is self-funded. So I appreciate that massively, nearly as much as I appreciate people like the legendary Cohen Griffith joining us. Thank you so much, Cohen, for your time and your stories, mate. It's been an absolute honour, and to be honest, for me, it's just been a dream come true. Thank you very much for your time, mate.
Okay, cheers, Simon. Andy.
Yeah, Cohen, thank you. It's been it's fantastic. Listen, it's an opportunity, and I said at the start about having somebody of the history of Cardiff City, and we need to remember this as football fans, because we're all fans. You know what I mean? And Si was a big Cardiff City fan, and I'm a huge Middlesbrough fan. You know what I mean? Back in the day at Essen Park, so. You know what I mean? Obviously, you played that day. What brought my little heart back at Essen Park, but I've got a strong skin. I'll forgive you. Don't worry.
Well, you'll probably be happy to know that I never actually contributed much in that game.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Neither did any of the Middlesbrough players, by the way. So it's all right. So you did as much as I did.
Absolutely. Massive thank you to Black Diamond Sports, of course. Bespoke Financial. Please check them out. See if they've got anything which can help you. Tell them we sent you. Of course, we got the MMA and boxing show Wednesday. Friday is the championship show live, 7 o'clock. I've also got an interview with actor Chris Johnson coming out on Thursday, which was so interesting. His uncle and his stepdad played for the mighty Middlesbrough, among other teams. Really interesting chat with him. So check that out. And of course, we'll be back next Monday with an all-new guest for the Andy Campbell Football Show. In the meantime, Matthew Angel has asked us all to do the Ayatollah.
Like it.
Here we go. For all those people who like to screenshot it.
There you go. Been a while. It's been a regular occurrence.
Indeed. Guys, it's been a pleasure. There's no other way I'd like to spend my Monday nights. But appreciate you all. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. See you Friday. See you Wednesday.
Cheers, guys.
My mummy and daddy have been talking about life insurance. It sounds like something to protect my brother and me, but I don't really understand. Then my Auntie Louise told Mummy about Bespoke Financial Teesside. She said they're a local company who helped her with her life insurance. Mummy got in touch, and because they're based locally, a man called Darren was able to come to our house. He was really friendly. Darren stayed for a cup of tea and made it all really easy to understand. He said that life insurance will protect our home and family if anything bad were to happen. Like if Mummy or Daddy got sick, then we'd get enough money to take care of us, and our house would be paid for so it wouldn't get taken away. After an hour, Darren said goodbye and Mummy and Daddy seemed a lot happier. Once it was all sorted, we could all relax and watch a film together as a family. I don't know why they didn't do it sooner.